Today on Training Tuesday, the May 12th edition, we're going to talk about we have a new vendor training video that's available that is going to be attached to the vendor instructions that goes out for RFPs only. So recall, for RFPs, we have two separate bids, and so we wanted to have a specific training video for vendors. So that is going to be available. Our monthly bid buy training will be tomorrow, Wednesday, May 13th. We'll talk about that. This week's highlight, we're going to talk about CPO notices, fun fact of the day, and then as a part of our fun fact of the day, we'll have something for you Cards fans as well as you Cubby fans. For our bid buy activity, we're going to talk about the Grainger Punchout, which is essentially a release off master, but there's a really handy way to utilize that Grainger contract. Okay, so first we have a vendor training for RFPs, how to respond to RFPs. So I walk through my vendor account and show how they would respond to a technical proposal only, as well as the pricing only proposal or pricing only bid. And here's the link, they'll be in the slides. So if you guys are starting to get questions from vendors about how to respond to an RFP, for instance, you can utilize this link. But it'll also be on the vendor instructions. So we have those attachments for the RFP attachments on each one of the technical proposal, bid, RFP, as well as the pricing only. And so we'll have that link there that's available for vendors. So this really isn't for you, but it really is just kind of a heads up that that is a resource in case you get asked about it. So the monthly bid buy training, I've got a question, has your screen changed? That sounds like an existential question. I'm not sure if it's changed. Maybe I'm showing the PowerPoint slide instead of usually use the PDF, I think, so it might look a little different. But if you mean, has it changed from the first time to the second time, or through the slides, it has changed. So can everybody see my screen? It looks like I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I guess I'm going to go with no news is good news. Okay, all good. Thank you. So as a part of our monthly bid buy training, we are working from home. We're going to do things a little bit differently than we have in the past. So rather than, normally we're in CDB's training room at the Stratton building in Springfield, and there's 12, 13 of us in a room, and we kind of work through examples. I'll work through an example myself, then everybody else goes through it. It's going to be a little bit different because we can't do that, of course, if we're doing it through WebEx. So we're kind of opening up the bid buy training to everybody. This would be perfect for anybody that, certainly if you're new to bid buy, we're going to be walking over, going over the same training that we normally would in person. But we're also going to stick to a schedule. So that way, perhaps if someone just needs a refresher on how to do a release off master, or maybe they just want to get the general navigation, but they can follow the job aids for the other things, we're advertising this and we're going to stick to this schedule. So at 9 o'clock, we're going to do going through an introduction, a general overview, general navigation. We do have a few slides, but it's really just kind of talking about, the new version of bid buy, where it came from, those sorts of things. At 10 a.m., we'll do a small purchase under $10,000 where I will walk through the training. But then, we want to allow for a little time for anybody, if they want to walk through on their own in the training environment. So that's really important. I think, if you're anything like I am, it's easy to watch somebody do it and you can go, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. I get that. But until you actually dig in and log in and do it yourself, that's when you really start to have your questions. So we're going to allow for some time in between each one of these exercises so that you can work on your own in the training environment. So if you are one of those people that are new to bid buy and you don't have a login yet, we will have a temporary login and password for you. You can just contact pogs.training@illinois.gov, which is the very last slide on this the slide deck here, if you need to get a temporary training login. Now, if you already have access to bid buy, you have access to the training environment. You may just not know that you do yet. So would have started out as, when you first had access to train and production environments, the login and password would have been exactly the same. So if you've had to change your password in BidBuy, you didn't necessarily change your password in the train environment, even though you have access. So if you go to train.bidbuy, you can utilize that login, the password assistance. So if you don't have access to BidBuy at all, we'll give you a temporary password. If you already have access to BidBuy but just want to be able to work through the exercises, you can utilize the password assistance, the login assistance on the train environment. So then at 11, we'll do small purchase, 10,000 and over. We'll break for lunch. We'll come back at 1 and do release off master. This is open. You don't have to register for this training. You can just click on this link. I did send an email around to SPOs and APOs with this same link as well. More the merrier. I know you guys are busy, so feel free to kind of come and go as you need to. That's going to be a little bit different, and we'll, assuming that this works the way that I think it will, probably just kind of do this next month, and depending on when we all get back to work, we'll kind of go with this for our monthly BidBuy training. Okay, reminder, that's just our weekly friendly reminder that the fiscal year end is right around the corner. Our weekly resource highlight, we're going to talk about CPO notices. So we have the link here. Go out to my link, and you know what, actually, rather than utilizing the link, it's probably better if I show you how. So the CPOG website, you scroll down to the bottom, the procurement resources library. Within the procurement resource library, this is where you have a lot of different resources for you. You have the resources for vendors, BidBuy training materials, CPO notices, CPO memos, the solicitation and contract templates and forms, and on and on and on. So this week we're going to highlight the CPO notices. Here's, it's organized by fiscal year. So fiscal year 2020, you can see all the CPO notices that are there. I'm not going to walk through all these today. It's just, I like to highlight these just to let you know that they're out here as a reminder. And if you haven't read through some of these, there's a lot of really great information for CPO notices. So, if the CPO notice is issued, of course, we will discuss it on these Tuesday calls as well. So if you go back to our training center and take a look at some of the titles of what we talked about on those training Tuesdays, you'll see that there's a couple where we had a new CPO notice and we would discuss that. So if you want some specific information, you can go back and take a look at those training Tuesdays, or you can just read through some of the CPO notices here. Like I said, I'm not going to dig in and do that. I just want to highlight that these are here. So anytime that there's a major policy shift, or for instance, the disaster proclamation, I'll use that as an example. The CPO had to put out a CPO notice discussing that disaster proclamation, as well as when there's an extension to that. When we changed that, procurements in BidBuy had to be electronic submission only. That's a major policy shift that needed a CPO notice. So if you have a chance to go back and take a look at some of these. There's a lot of really good information. So from a procurement standpoint, this is a really, really great resource for you. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. All right, our fun fact of the day. My first fun fact is for our Cardinals fans. I am really jonesing for some baseball. And so May 12th, 1966, Busch opens in St. Louis. The Cardinals beat the Braves 4-3 in 12 innings. I have a lot of childhood at that fantastic ballpark. But don't worry, I'm not leaving out my Cubby friend fans out completely. May 12th, 1970, Ernie Banks hits his 500th home run. So it's a good, positive day for all our Cardinals fans, all our Cubby fans. Sorry, you Sox fans, I'm ignoring you. Anyway, you guys have a great rest of your day. I am going to walk through the BidBuy activity, the Grainger Punchout. So if that's something you do not need to do, you can hop off and have a great rest of your week. If you're not, stick around with me. I do have the CPOGS.training@illinois.gov email address if you would like to go ahead and get a temporary password for tomorrow's training, and we'll see you at 9 a.m. So I'm going to go out and show how we do the Grainger punch out. So let me go to goodbye. Now this is only, this activity only works in your contract. In essence, when someone says we're doing a punch out, what it does is it allows you to go and add items to a requisition, or it actually will create a requisition for you by going out to Grainger's website. Now in the future, we may end up having additional contracts that are utilized in this punch out process. Now we only have the Grainger contract. So rather than going and, how you normally would do a release off master, you could, go and search for the item within the search box, utilizing that catalog function. Or, say you start a requisition from scratch and then you're going in and adding items. It's a really handy way to do this. So I'm going to go to where the gears are. You scroll down, you see G2B punch out. So if I select G2B punch out, oh no, I got kicked off. Let me sign back in. Sorry about that. So I go to the gears, my drop down, I go to G2B punch out. Now you're going to select vendor, right? It's not going to automatically select the only vendor, but there is only one at this point. So WW Grainger Inc., I select that. At this point, it's going to be defaulted to my department and location, just because that's what's set up for my account. If I needed to change that, you could. The ship to and bill to address. Now you will have a chance to change this later, but if you know already that you're shipping it to a certain place, you can go and do that. So I'm happy with my ship to and bill to addresses. I select punch out, and what it's going to do is it's actually going to take me away from BidBuy and take me to the Grainger website. You can see that this is the Grainger State of Illinois, right? This is a website that is set up only for the master contract for State of Illinois users. So anything you can search within these products, you're going to put it in a shopping cart and you're going to add to a requisition. And so all of these are a part of the Grainger master contract. So, if you could use keyword, really it is just more like you're shopping online, right? So I go in, I'll select the very first thing, abrasives. It breaks it down into different categories. We'll just kind of grab here. We need some gloves. You can go add to the cart, right? So let's say add to the cart. You can change your quantity. We need, we need 50 of those. Okay. You can see that here's here. I can continue shopping, or I can go in and view my cart. So you can go in and add all your items that you would from the contract, view cart when I'm ready to move on. Now, this is not set up in the training environment, so I'm not going to be able to go all the way through. I'm going to get right to the very end of, I'm going to get to the very end of when I'm going to submit my cart, and I'm actually not going to, because I don't want it to actually create a requisition. Makes sense. In our training environment, it's not hooked to this real live website for Grainger. Okay, so if I go in, the last thing I would do, I have all my items here, I would select submit cart, and what's going to happen is you're about to transfer products to your internal procurement system. So what happens is if I select yes here, all it does is it takes me back to BidBuy with now I'll have to process the release off master in the same way. So I would still have to go back and do the accounting, put in a couple items. If I needed to attach any documents, I would. But really what this does is it takes the place of you having to go in for this Grainger contract and selecting the items one at a time. It really just allows you to go in, add things to your cart. Once I select yes here, it would take me back to BidBuy, and then I would process the requisition the rest of the way. So it's a little bit of time, but there still would be a couple pieces that you would still need. So I'm going to go ahead and select no here. At this point, you would select yes, but like I said, I don't really want to create a requisition that has whatever this is, underlinked. in the production environment. Okay, so I'm gonna select no. I'm actually just gonna X out of this. I'm gonna make sure that I don't get in trouble for doing that. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, I want to remove those from my cart. And I can go back and back. We have a question. Is there a place we can find our invoices on this site? So your invoices, I don't believe, from my understanding, is you would just go out and you're adding your items and then you go right back to the, it's just a matter of, it's a way of adding your items to BidBuy. I don't think, and I could be wrong here. So, you know, my disclaimer is I'm just unaware of them using this site as for invoices. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back. So what that would have done is I would have shown up as a requisition. I would go ahead and finish the requisition or the processing of that requisition the same way that I normally would. Okay, we have a question. Can you discuss the process for purchasing off a master contract when an item is not specifically listed on the items tab, such as where the vendor offers a percentage discount on their products? I'm not exactly sure, mostly because I don't do release off very often. So I thought as a part of when they offer a percentage discount for products, that was into the master contract where, you know, where I know do it contracts or would be a percentage off MSRP. I'm wondering if maybe that's what it is. Let me circle back and I'll ask I'll reach back out to you, and we'll get some specific guidance because I want to make sure that that's not what you're talking about. Okay, so that finishes up our bid buy activity. Pretty short one today, but I like to get back to having these be fairly short, within 15 to 20 minutes. Certainly on our, you know, when we do some of the different, you know, the different processes, if we do small purchase or some of the ones that are going to take a little bit more time, that's going to a bit more time for us to walk through. But in general, I like to keep these Training Tuesdays to less than half an hour. So we'll go ahead and finish the call today. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and I'll circle back about this question regarding the release off master. Okay. Thanks, everybody.